Welcome everybody. Welcome to the welcoming of the Futro Hidden Movie Gems podcast. I'm your host Ty Christensen. I'm joined by none other than Cameron Mickle.
What's up, cheap cheeps?
And we're also joined by Jordan Christensen.
Is there any risk of brain damage? Technically speaking, the procedure is brain damage, but it's on par with the night of heavy drinking.
And we're joined by a guest. Today we have Zach Montgomery.
Oh, hello.
I was actually quoting Jim Carrey there, by the way. Montgomery. Does anyone remember that? Anyone?
No, what movie is that?
No. What movies? Yeah.
Ace Ventura?
No.
The Mask?
No. It's a children's movie. A series of unfortunate events.
Oh, I saw that maybe once a long time ago. And
Yep, we all did.
Forgot about it as fast as possible.
Does he actually say the word Montgomery, though?
He's the doctor who pretends to be fascinated with snakes to get the kids away from their cool uncle that studies poisonous snakes, but the snake's not really poisonous.
That's his alias, is Montgomery?
Yeah, his alias is Dr. Montgomery.
That's awesome.
Well, that was a delightful tangent.
Yeah, we're doing well.
Today we are discussing Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. How about this film?
I just feel like the clouds just opened up. There's like a sky beam coming down after you said the title.
It's not Suicide Squad, Jordan. It's not a DC film, okay?
Yeah, take it easy. This film came out in 2004. It was directed by Michael Gondry and written by Charlie Kaufman and Michael Gondry.
Charlie.
Stars Jim Carrey, Kate Winslet, and Tom Wilkinson. Elijah Wood.
Mark Ruffalo.
Can't forget Ruffalo.
Yeah, are you kidding me?
And Kirsten Dunst. Movie has everybody.
Oh, and you can't forget David Cross, who plays Rob.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
He's awesome in this movie.
He's my favorite. I'm building a birdhouse.
Never knew.
I think that couple's like one of my favorite parts. Like they're just randomly doing just things in the background, like the model plane as they're getting to the beach.
Such a dysfunctional. They're hard to watch.
Yeah.
Did you catch that, Ty? He like wouldn't let his wife carry the plane, and she was like trying to grab.
Yeah, she's trying to help, and he makes her grab the heavy cooler. She like drops the whole thing, and so then Jim Carrey carries the cooler. He has all the plane himself, and she gets to close the tailgate.
There's so much visual humor in this movie. It's so good.
We're going to go around and ask what was it like watching this movie for the first time and what was it like rewatching it for this podcast. Let's start with you, Jordan.
Okay, so the first time I watched it with Zach, he introduced me to this film and was like, you haven't seen Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind? So we ended up watching it together, and I'm like, oh my gosh. I kept putting it off forever, and I do that to Zach a lot. He always recommends amazing movies, then I'm like, oh, I'll maybe later. And then after I watched it, I'm like, oh my gosh, why haven't I seen this movie before?
You would think my opinions would have more weight by now, but they don't.
Sorry, Zach. And then we were watching it both at the same time in the same house 2 nights ago for the podcast. But then last night we were like so excited. We invited a bunch of people and they're like, what's that movie Zach keeps talking about like that we got to watch? And we're like, oh, I guess we'll have to watch it again. So we watched it a third time.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
2 nights ago when I watched it for the podcast, I started to take notes, but then I was just having so much fun watching it. I just put down my notes and I'm like, I just got to watch this. But then I rewatched it again last night and got some good notes. Seriously, I just like got so emotional by the end and I was just like, waterworks. I don't know if I... if it's just relating too much to Jim Carrey or something. Cameron, do you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. Watching it for the podcast is actually my first time watching it, and I was really confused. Kind of like the first 18 minutes, I was like, "What the freak am I watching?" And then it was just jumped, and I was just even more lost. And I was just like, "Okay." But then the longer it went on, I was talking to Jordan about that. I don't know, it was just really entertaining, the visuals and everything. And honestly, it was hilarious because this Jim Carrey in this movie reminded me so much of Jordan. Oh my gosh, it was hilarious. I was just eating it up. I was like, this is literally my brother. Someone made a film about my brother.
Isn't it crazy how different Jim Carrey is? It was like the opposite of who he really is, because he's such a crazy, outgoing...
I know, and in this film, he's just closed mouth, yeah, it's okay. He's the perfect amount of mellowness to mellow out her craziness. So yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, my friend that I watched this with originally, he was telling me that the director the whole time is trying to get Jim Carrey to not be Jim Carrey, just kind of tone it down. Very few times does he let him actually do what he wants to do. And with Kate Winslet, he's trying to get her to be more like Jim Carrey normally would be.
Yeah, that's got to be really weird to be in that situation.
Yeah.
Zach, do you want to go next?
Oh, sure. I loved it the first time I watched it, but I think I like it more each time. You pick out so many more details. This movie's amazing, just how much detail went into it. You pick up more little nuances, when they're getting the plane out of the car, like we were talking about, or the birdhouse. Like, it's this model couple. I don't know if they're supposed to be the strong couple in the film, or they're just strong compared to just how bad Jim Carrey's relationship is. All the little fighting there. I don't think there's like a good couple in the whole movie. I don't know. You just kind of start thinking about more and more things. You just love it more and more.
I'm sure that the best couple wasn't the doctor who was brainwashing his secretary to make her forget of cheating with him. What the fuck? That was some messed up crap there. I was like, what on earth?
I don't know, Cameron. If you put any man standing up next to Elijah Wood, I think they're going to seem like Prince Charming, you know? If you want to get your ex back, just pair him with Elijah Wood, like the worst boyfriend of all time. And any girl will take you back thinking you're Prince Charming, man. Seriously.
Oh, those sideburns. Oh my gosh.
They went down pretty far, man.
He is a character.
I almost feel so bad for Elijah because I feel like he's the kind of guy that's performed some of the most outrageous and creepy actors. I feel like he gets so lost in these roles, like the scuzziest characters. Maybe it proves hard for him to find work because people just are like, you're a terrible person. It's like, no, he's just played these terrible people in the past, but he's actually really nice.
Well, I've only seen him like this movie, and I don't feel at home in this world anymore. What other scuzzy characters has he done?
Oh my gosh, I love him. I don't feel at home in this world.
Yeah.
That punch he gives to that old man is the best thing I've ever seen in my life. Boom! And then when he throws the ninja star. See how hard I threw that?
Zach, did you mention how you first came across this film?
Oh, me and one of my friends watched this YouTube channel. I think it's called Cinefix.
Oh.
And they mention it all the time. And so, like, we just heard about it several times. We're like, oh, we should watch it. The first time I watched this movie, it was me, my friend, and his mom. And his mom falls asleep in the first 5 minutes. And then wakes up at the part where they're trying to, like, hide in his shameful memories. And she, like, wakes up and she's like, what are we watching?
Oh, no.
Like, you literally woke up for the worst part. Like, it's okay.
Oh, jeez.
That's a parent's gift, man.
Yeah, it's crazy how often that happens.
I used to go to this dingy old video store called Pre-Played, and it's just as creepy as it sounds. There's like carpet stains on the floor that have an inexplicable odor coming from them. People standing in the corner mumbling to themselves. Like, it's really disturbing. But I go there because it's part of the experience, right? Of buying a movie or a DVD for like $1.99. Like, how can this business stay afloat when they have CD-ROMs that are worth $2? It's a big store, so I'd go here, and I found Eternal Sunshine, and I love Jim Carrey.
Oh, I love Jim Carrey.
Well, mostly love, but I was like, I had never heard of this movie. While I'm in the store, I usually Rotten Tomatoes score just to get a general census, and it was pretty highly rated, and I was like, okay, yeah, I'll take this one home. It's like $2.
Is it really? Because it wasn't at first when it first came out.
Well, it's like at 93% now. That's what it was on last night anyway.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so it definitely took off.
I got it like 4 years ago. I think it said like romantic drama or
Sci-fi.
something like that. So I was like, oh, this might be a fun one to watch with my wife. So we watched it and we were like, wow, did not expect to see this film. Very surprising. I didn't really think much about the movie until Jordan mentioned that we were going to be doing it on the podcast. And so I rewatched it last night and I had a really good time. Caught things that I otherwise didn't catch the first time I watched it. I enjoyed it more cinematically because I kind of knew what was going to happen. But I did forget a lot of things because I hadn't seen it for a few years. There's definitely a lot more to appreciate on the second viewing when you know what's going to happen. The first viewing is kind of like a roller coaster ride. You're like, I had no idea they made films like this. Indie cry? I don't know what to call it. like sad tears? Indie tears?
Indie cry.
Indie cry films? Yeah, it packs an emotional punch. I don't know what to classify this movie. Drama, romantic, comedy. No comedy. Well, it's starring Jim Carrey, so I don't know what. There is comedy to be had.
It's a funny movie. Like, there's plenty of funny parts in it.
But to me, it's almost a dark comedy. It's not because it revolves around death. It's like laughing at depression and like loveless relationships. So that's where a lot of the humor comes from.
Well, I don't know about loveless. It just feels like life. There's not a perfect relationship in this movie. There's not a perfect relationship in life. But like these other people are making, well, I guess the one couple makes it work. The other one kind of is shameful and like hides it away. And the other one just wants to forget about everything, but then decides to try again. I just love movies that aren't cookie cutter happy all the time.
It was kind of refreshing how it didn't explain everything like every other show. It gives like the subtitles that explain any other thing that you might not be understanding. It was kind of nice to be like lost a little bit.
The first time I tried to watch it, I got 5 minutes in. That's when you first meet Kate, and she is just insane. I was like, what am I watching? Like, this chick is out of her mind.
Yeah, she's whacked.
Yeah, little red flag going up.
It makes sense though by the end of the film. Like she lost like 2 years of her life and she wakes up and she's all of a sudden like older and having a meltdown.
She's like, my skin's falling off and my skin's crawling, and I'm like, what the fudge is wrong with this chick?
I can't remember, when you first met Elijah Wood, dude, we were laughing so hard when he comes up to the window and he's like,
Can I help you?
what are you doing here?
I don't understand your question.
I was like, well, first off, what is he doing in this movie? Second off, what is his purpose? I was like, what are you doing? Leave.
One of my friends last night, he's like turned to me after that scene. He's like, was that Elijah Wood's only cameo in this movie? And we're like, no, but maybe it should have been. Like, that would have been great.
The first thing that I absolutely loved about the movie is just the cinematography, because there was lots of scenes where it was like intentional blurring of people, zooming in and out, focusing on people or objects in the distance or up close. It kind of had like that feeling of like, man, I'm starting to lose my mind watching this, you know? Because you're like starting to question what is reality and what isn't. Like he's coming out of a room and then he's like in his home now. What the fudge is happening?
He's walking from the library, the lights are slowly turning off, and he walks into the room. That's such a cool shot.
Yeah, and I'm just like, what the freak? And it's just really good job. Like, I feel like they put you in his mind. I just really love the ambiguity, the twist, and the tie back. The plot meshed really well. I did not see it coming at all. I'm kind of confused at this film, and then like that tie back just like brought it up, got a ton of points from me.
Yeah, it's a little bit like Memento, just not quite as crazy. Because it starts from the end and then works its way backwards.
Had little calls to Inception too. Obviously it's more sleek in design, but I think they did a really good job at capturing like subconscious mind and memory. Like when he's trapped in his mind and he like even wakes up a few times, but he's like, wake up right now.
This was before Inception, wasn't it?
Oh yeah.
These are memories. It's not necessarily dreams. So Christopher Nolan still is,
Oh, whatever.
he's very original.
Oh my gosh, settle down, get off your high horse.
In defense of Christopher Nolan, it's not like he's stealing the ideas from Charlie Kaufman and
We get it, he's a scam.
I love the cuts when like his memories start like falling apart, I guess. Like when he's driving the car after, it's like it's all falling apart and the car's like crashing into the street. How things are like kind of getting deleted as they go along. I love the scene too where like she gets erased again and he's like, I don't want to do this anymore. Is anyone listening? And it like comes out of his mind and shows Mark Ruffalo and Kirsten Dunst dancing in their underwear like over the top of it. In my conspiracy theory of where we're all in a computer program, it just makes you wonder like who's standing over us like looking down as we're having our mental breakdowns.
our overlords smoking weed and just occasionally once in a while tapping a few clicks of a keyboard.
Yeah. Yep.
That was one of my favorite scenes when Jim Carrey's on his knees, like praying, and he's like, I want to stop. Oh, it's powerful.
My favorite too is Jim Carrey as a dramatic actor. I really like The Truman Show. That's also one of my favorite films of him, and
yeah,
it's
that's a good
largely
one.
dramatic too. I just think he should stick with the drama instead of trying to add like the horror element, because he tried to do like that prison one.
23.
Well, he did 23, which is a failure, and I haven't seen it, but I remember the trailer looked appealing. Like this guy sees 23 everywhere. But every time I watch those movies, I've already told you my feelings on actors playing crazy people.
Yeah.
I really struggle with it. So maybe that's the problem. There was a new Jim Carrey thing. It was like a TV show or something. One of the streaming devices had him like it's a detective, darkness, something. I think some of the greatest comedians, I don't want to say new Adam Sandler, old Adam Sandler, Bryan Cranston, these guys that know really good humor, they know how to dial it up when it comes to drama, you know? And so everyone's surprised by Uncut Gems, Adam Sandler, like, wow, out of left field. It's like, no. It's a lot harder to have good comedic timing. That's like a real hard skill. Drama, just cry, you know, you turn up the faucet, the water works and you start bawling. How many times can Casey Affleck stand beside the shoreline and brood over his life and his failed relationships in life? But when you see Adam Sandler be a jewel peddler, like, it just blows you away. Like, it's way more impressive than anything Casey Affleck has ever done. Shots fired, you know. I want to start this beef between Casey Affleck and team Adam Sandler. Jim Carrey, being a dramatic actor, that definitely takes the cake for this one. This is like a very depressing Scott Pilgrim versus the World movie. All the inner workings of his subconscious, it was a really clever way, and everything's being erased, like you said. The shots where he's walking through the library where he first met, and then the lights turn off and he's all of a sudden in the next room. It's like a great transition into the next scene, and I'm like, I don't know why more films don't bother with this, but I guess technically, narratively speaking, you might lose a few audience members that are like, wait, why was the cut made that way? But it's like, in films, we do it all the time. We just cut. Here's an establishing shot. We're at the next location, and then you begin the film that way. But I think it was perfectly fine, the way that the style of the film film. You know, it's kind of like watching 500 Days of Summer meets Scott Pilgrim, right? You have like these very clever transitions into scenes and very clever ways of moving the story forward, and also a really good way to delve into someone's mind.
I also think they don't do it sometimes in movies because it's so jarring, which actually works to the benefit of this film, because it's like it's purposefully showing how everything is kind of going crazy inside his mind.
It can be jarring, but for me, those things don't take me out of the film. They just invite me to get closer in. When you cut a scene, that's when I think about an editor in a film room that just like pushes a button. It's like, okay, stop here, put this film, mash it up to the next one, and start rolling again. That's me personally. So when I see someone like cleverly trying to find a new way to like bring a character into the next scene, I think it's really clever when they do things like that. It doesn't logically make sense, but it's really cool.
Well, I think it makes sense, kind of like how your mind goes from like one memory to another. It's like that dramatic hop in between everything.
This movie does a really good job of successfully portraying the subconscious, which I don't know how many films there are about that. I guess a lot of Charlie Kaufman's films, you know, Syndicate of New York and
Adaptation.
What were we saying, George? Like, because I watched Anomalisa with you, and
Being John Malkovich.
yeah, and we're talking like every film of his that we've seen, it's all about people cheating on each other and like failed relationships.
They are.
yeah, this guy has to excise some demons from his life, you know, and he does it in his films. Don't ever be caught in a bad relationship. You'll find it in a blockbuster, or at least an indie film about it, and it'll be immortalized in film canon forever, so don't cross him. That's the other thing, too. This movie does a really good job at like showing relationships, because in memories, like you said, it can be jarring because all you remember is mostly pleasant things. It's very hard to hold on to bitter memories, and because you have to remind yourself of it every day. But pleasant memories, they'll just come to you. You know, when you're sad, and you'll be like, oh, like I had it really good with that person. You know, think of all the things that I didn't think to say at the time. But truth is, then you're back with that person, and then you're like, oh yeah, now I remember why I left in the first place. So
One of the things I was wondering as I watched it last time, was his relationship really that bad, or were they just in a rough patch? And so by the end of the movie, you saw like the relationship, like it actually was at least partially good? Or was it that his bad memories got erased first as they're going back? And so at the end, he's left with just good memories. And that's when he decides like he doesn't want to forget her.
Oh, that's a good question.
I don't know, dude. Any girl with, I'm broadly speaking here, but any manic pixie dream girl with blue hair or orange hair or red hair, you know, and then she says, I express my personality through my hairstyles, and that's like the full extent of it. Run, dude. Just run. I'm sorry, like I'm making a total judgment call based on someone's appearance, and maybe that's not a good thing. It's definitely not a good thing. I'm being very prejudicial right now, but I definitely think that those are the first key indicators. And then, and not only that, but when you first meet her, and then she ends up hitting you in your first encounter with her, like physically punching you, maybe there's some early warning signs.
The big red flags.
And I even thought it was funny when Jim Carrey, he's narrating, he goes, why is it that every woman I look at, I fall in love with? Based on that narration, he sees her at the train station, they kind of make eye contact, and then they're on the train. Either he's just really shy, obviously, but he doesn't seem to love her. And the time that he meets her and says, well, you seem like a nice person, and it's almost like, please don't hit me again, right? It's like more terrified of her. According to your own narration, I guess this is one girl you didn't instantly fall in love with, so maybe there is something to their relationship.
What was where she's like inviting him up to her apartment, and he's like, no, I shouldn't. And then it like cuts to the next scene and he's up in her apartment.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that transition. Going into what Zach just mentioned, I love all the transitions. We've already mentioned a couple of them, but there's some where they start to mesh together so closely. Like when it starts to rain in his apartment and he dives under the table. If you look, the top of the table actually changes to one of those rooftops of that shed.
Holy cow.
There's sand in his bedroom. That's just something I love so much about this film. There's a lot of forced perspective, which is like when he's a little kid, it's actually just shot, the room's extended a long length. So it looks like he's really tiny in the room, but he's just at a far distance of the room. They have people up closer to make them look bigger than him. And it's just so cool. They do a lot of practical effects when he's in the sink and stuff. I was looking at the behind the scenes and they have like this giant fake arm like right in the sink next to him. And then they have, you know, like I said, once again, forced perspective where he's just on a further distance. And so it looks like he's tiny in this little pool. I mean, in the sink.
What does he say? He's like, I feel so secure and safe. It's like, I love that time.
Does anyone have like two of your least favorite things about this film?
Or any nitpicking stuff? Yeah, I don't have anything.
My biggest gripe was the morphed faces. That just made me so uncomfortable. I was like, what the fudge?
The people we watched it with too, these girls were like, oh my gosh, almost screaming because it felt like a horror movie. It was freaky.
What the fudge?
It almost feels like it doesn't belong, and that's why I could see this movie turning off a lot of audience members. There's almost nothing that prepares you for it, right? There's been a few surreal things before that. They muted the sound. I thought that was fine enough if they just did that, but then there's that terrifying, like their faces are being blurred out. You can't put a face to something, right? You do forget about everything that was said.
Yeah, well, they already deleted part of his memories, right? Like he goes back around, and each time he loops back to that office, like the faces are like more and more blurry.
Yeah, more and more disfigured. Yeah, it's creepy.
Distorted, yeah.
Elijah Wood, where he's trying to like flip him around in the bookstore, but he never really saw his face, so like he can't turn him around in his memories.
Oh yeah, that scene was actually really intense when he's like kept flipping him and he's like, oh freak.
Very almost like a horror movie. It's hard to label this movie. It's just got elements of everything. You're in for a roller coaster ride of emotions.
Kind of like a similar to like The Room. It's like a gripe which made it funny. It was just Elijah Wood. His character Patrick just made me so uncomfortable at all times. No matter what he was doing, there's nothing that he could do that wouldn't make me uncomfortable. He literally is copying exactly what Jim Carrey did. He's like stealing his identity. I love how Jim Carrey says it even in his subconscious. He's like, hey, he's stealing my identity. And he's like, I stole her panties or whatever. And he's like, ha ha ha. Him and Mark Ruffalo have like the most uncomfortable conversation ever. And he's like, it's kind of weird, man. And he's like, ha ha ha. And I was like, what the fuck?
Dude, his laugh when Kirsten Dunst comes over and they're like kiss or something, he's like, yeah, haha, that's hot or something.
I was like, what the fuck? He's such a creepy character. He reminds me of Denny from The Room.
Oh, that was so funny. I love him.
These two people need therapy. There's just so many issues, clear issues. Like anyone outside looking in would be like, oh man, like get away and run. It's like a magnifying glass. These are the memories that are being shown that are like the most traumatic, the most memorable. Based on their first altercation, I would say very unhealthy person based on what she says and how she says it. She can be violent even. Give these two people help. And what's sad is they find each other at the end and it's the sweetest thing, right? And it makes you want to cry because that's where Jim Carrey's dramatic muscles flex. When he is staring at her, lays it all bare, and she's like, look, I'm going to get tired of you, and you're going to find things to not like me. And then he just, okay. That's by far the sweetest moment of the film. But it's almost undercut because I'm like, there's no way they make it on the second try.
You want to have hope for them because as the movie goes on, like the beginning memories, he's not sharing anything. Like even when he's talking to her, he's still kind of closed off. But by the end of it, he's like bearing his soul to her about how he was scared and what he really felt at those times. So you want to hope that like he learned to communicate better. But then you see the ending scene where it's just repeating over and over, like they're throwing snow at each other, like in the same way. Maybe not. Maybe they're just doomed to repeat this over and over.
Same thing, yeah. And that's a good point because the perspective is told from Jim Carrey, but he had to like atone to get back with Kate Winslet. On the other hand, Kate Winslet had her mind erased, and she did get tortured by Elijah Wood because he kept giving her heirlooms of her past life that she had erased. Set your ex-girlfriend up with Elijah Wood, and I promise you, you'll get your ex back. Yeah.
I got you a Valentine's present.
Yeah,
What is it? I don't know.
I don't know. Open it up and find out, you know? You have no idea what it is. And then she's like, oh, I love it.
I've never had a boyfriend that got me a piece of jewelry of my taste.
I just watched Win a Date with Tad Hamilton this week, and that's literally like when someone takes credit for someone else's like...
What laugh am I doing now? He's like,
one? No. One is when I'm laughing because something's funny, or so he's like, oh. It's like, you have 6 smiles. Someone taking like someone else's credit like about some girl. What other movies are like this? I kind of mentioned Scott Pilgrim. The director, Michael Gondry, he also did the Be Kind Rewind, which is so weird when I went back through his film history, and I'm like, I saw that movie once, and I remember being slightly disappointed because I love films. And for some reason, that movie, it was good for all that I can remember. But again, I almost feel like maybe my mind got wiped because I only remember positive things, but I remember I would never watch it again. That was like my end conclusion. And now I don't know why I wouldn't go watch it again. It's kind of like Jim Carrey and Kate Winslet. I'm doomed to go reunite myself with this movie and be disappointed disappointed.
We were kids when we saw it, Ty. Maybe we would like it more now.
You literally have the premise where you have two guys that take films and erase them and put new information in them. So I'm like, it's literally the same movie, but it's just not as deep and heavy.
It had a little bit of like kind of the Prestige, where it was like the loop of adding one little bit of knowledge, and you're like, you think back on the film, you're like, so many other things make sense. Holy fudge! I'm not usually like a very spontaneous person. I was like, I'm so confused. What the fudge? Like, Jim Carrey's a psycho, and then everything just made sense, kind of like Prestige. The last 15 minutes, I would have been happier if it just ended right at that moment where you see him like look at the other train. If it would have ended right there, I would have been like, oh dang. But then it gave you a really realistic ending. It was good, but at the same time, it's like a little depressing. But that's what made it realistic, is because it wasn't just like, oh, now they're gonna get back together and everything's gonna be perfect. I mean, it usually doesn't work like that.
It did have a much more, like Ty mentioned already, 500 Days of Summer feel.
But at least 500 Days of Summer gives you like a glimmer of hope at the end, in a way. Well, maybe not.
I don't know. It's the same as this movie. He's gonna go through the cycle again.
Doomed to repeat 500 Days of Autumn, right? Joseph Gordon-Levitt is the most clueless person on earth. Like, not picking up any of these hints. But then I thought, I'm like, actually, I know people like that. Like, I had friends that would hit on girls, and I'm like, dude, they're not that into you. Like, it's so easy to point it out to somebody else, but you're like, do you not see that? Like, look how uncomfortable she is. Let her go.
What did this remind you of? When Jim Carrey was at the beach and he's digging into the sand and he says, sand is overrated.
Well, are you thinking of Star Wars, Hayden Christensen?
Yes!
Sand is
Rough and
coarse,
and
it gets everywhere.
Oh man, that was really good though. Like, you're introducing Jim Carrey. Like, what a great monologue. Like, you know everything about him in like 2 minutes. And it has narration, but what's impressive is this movie takes place in his mind. So it's actually less than narration of what's going on in his life. It's actually just
What he's thinking.
You're going to spend a lot of the movie in his mind. So I thought that was actually warranted narration, quote unquote narration.
It's not even necessarily like narration. Could be like his journal entry, which I was thinking possibly. Can we just address how creepy and weird his journal is? What the fudge? If I saw that, I'm like, you need some psychological help, brother.
What from his journal was so creepy?
I don't know, like the pictures and stuff like that.
Some of the pictures for sure. Like bulging eyes.
Yeah, it reminds me of Jordan's like drawings of like when we're murdering people. That's what honestly it made me. I'm like, this is totally Jordan. Oh my gosh.
I do love those art. Oh, dude, that whole book was amazing.
I feel like Jordan heavily relates to Jim Carrey in this movie, to Joel. Jordan.
Maybe too
Joel,
much.
I don't know,
geez.
dude. All three of your names start with G or J, whatever. I'm so tired.
Gee.
Jordan, Joel, and Jim Carrey. I'm just saying, that's 3 G's right there. 3 J's. Why do I keep saying G's? It's so stupid.
If you could erase anything from your mind, what would it be?
Does it have to be a person or a memory?
It could be a person or a memory. Because remember, there was that lady that had like, oh, this movie is Show Don't Tell, Cameron, where, you know, she's got that bucket full of her dog stuff, and you're like, oh. She's there to erase her dog. And then the other guy had that bowling trophy.
Like a silver trophy, like he got...
Second place.
Wants to erase the glory days.
Was it a second place trophy? Is that what it was?
I thought it was a silver.
Oh, maybe it was.
I like both narratives. Like, which do you think is more likely, that he had second place and he wants to forget that he lost, or do you think like he was a first place and he wasted too much of his life chasing bowling? Like, which narrative is like crazier?
Well, I wasn't thinking chasing bowling. I was thinking like, especially if all you do is live in the past, like you can't move forward. So I was thinking maybe he wants to erase it so he can move on with his life.
Dang.
Because otherwise, too many people relive their glory days where like, oh, when they peaked in high school or they peak in some moment in their life, and then they just can't move past that.
If you peak in bowling, you got some serious issues. This milk clinic is just for you, dude.
Okay, well,
Yeah, dude, if you peak at bowling, that is
This clinic is just the right thing for you, you sorry sack of crap.
we love bowlers.
We love bowlers. Any bowlers listening to a movie podcast, we love you. Don't tune out just yet.
just don't peak.
Just don't peak.
I wouldn't erase any memories, because if you did, like, you wouldn't be able to learn and move on from them. Like, I loved even his darkest memories. Like, I don't know. Those are horrible.
Sorry. No, you're doing a really heartfelt thing, but I loved his darkest memories.
Should I not?
Sound so
I shouldn't have said that. Sorry. It's very real.
I get what you're saying.
What I thought was sweet in the relationship was the fact that she saw his darkest memories, and then she was like, oh, that's so cute. And like, it made him even more personable to her. I felt like one of the biggest reasons their relationship wasn't good is because he didn't like make himself vulnerable to her. And so the moment she kind of saw like, oh, you're just like a scared little boy, and like, oh wow, you struggle with the same problems as me.
Well, it wasn't so much her seeing that. That was like him.
His subconscious of her seeing it. I know, which is sad.
I think he felt more okay with her knowing that at that point. Yeah.
I know, it's so sad because like it's like you have like a heartfelt moment and you're like, it's not even actually her, it's just his subconscious thinking it's her. And you're like, someone communicate.
That's huge though, Cameron. I once went on a double date with this couple, and my gosh, are these these were beautiful specimen. I'm talking about like a guy that looked like he walked straight out of GQ, and some lady that looked like she walked out of like, I don't know.
It was Ken and Barbie.
Yeah, that's a good comparison. But Ken and Barbie kind of scare me, so let's do like a model. Like
Victoria's Secret. There you go.
or like American Eagle. But I was like, is that the right age group?
One of them's 50, the other one's 20.
They were so perfect looking and they were so great in personality, but watching them I was like, these two can't open up and be vulnerable, because like the moment they admit they have like a weakness, like they'll stop being this perfect facade of like perfection. I mean, like, holy cow, these two people were beautiful. It was just fun to watch them through the evening, like mini golfing. And at the end of the night, we're like eating ice cream and I'm like, hey, you guys want some? And they're like, oh no, we're good. And I'm like, of course they wouldn't need ice cream. These two are beautiful. They don't need ice cream. Like a crappy person like me, like of course they don't need ice cream. When you're not willing to open yourself up and be vulnerable, you're never going to connect with someone on any level, right? And that's what Jim Carrey learns by the end of this film. And I'm like, maybe he's just at least ready or more ready to meet someone new.
But that's the sad part, is though he erased all that, so all that stuff he learned, did he learn it or is it gone forever, you know?
Oh gosh, see, that's like when the movie even gets more depressing. He's like, he learned nothing from this failed relationship, and you're just doomed to get married or get in a relationship and then doom it again.
Yeah, imagine her as a mother. Oh my gosh. Dude, rest in peace to those children. Oh my gosh.
I once met someone I sold life insurance to, and this kid, I was like, oh, so like, how long you and your spouse been together? She's like, oh, 5 years. I'm like, oh, okay, it's like fairly recent. I mean, she's like 70 years old, and I'm like, oh, that's great. And she's like, yeah, I'm great at marriage. I've been married 5 times. Which I think is a really oxymoronic statement. I know all about marriage. I've been married 5 times. I'm no dummy. I know all about marriage.
What is that on Community where Chevy Chase is complaining? He's like, I've been married 7 times. By this point, I think I must be doing something wrong. And Jeff's like, yeah, you keep getting married.
Can you believe that? 7 women. 7 women agreed to marry him.
What is the deeper meaning of this film? We kind of delved a little bit into it, right? Like past relationships, how we view them, in our subconscious, we think of like only good times. Now, I've actually had the pleasure, or I guess the displeasure. I went on a date with somebody, or I used to date someone, and then years later we got back together, and then it was like, oh, very quickly.
Yeah, right away, all that starts to come back.
In one date, like after years of it seeing each other, it like instantly came back, all the other memories, like all the bad stuff. Run! Louis C.K., he did a great joke about this where he said, I'm divorced, and everyone in the audience is like, aw. And he goes, no, don't aw. He's like, no happy marriage has ever ended in divorce. And I'm like, holy cow, like he's absolutely right.
I don't know if I agree with that. I just don't agree with that saying, like, no happy marriage, because you could start out super happy, and because every marriage usually, the reason they get married is because they're happy and they love each other.
What he was trying to say is you don't end a happy marriage, yes.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Good catch, Jordan. Because maybe my joke didn't make sense.
No, I misunderstood it.
I really like movies that make you think for like days after. And so it just kind of makes you think, if I didn't go through these things, would I be happier, or would I just go back and be miserable again? I don't know. Is it really necessary to grow, or would you be able to move on and actually be happy, I guess?
I really like that kind of comment, because honestly, I think that's something that's really cool. The base message I felt like was like relationships. No relationship is perfect. It all requires work. But then I felt like the deeper meaning was many things in life depend on your outlook or perspective, like whether you view it as glass half full or glass half empty. I learned about it a little bit in psychology class, is the rose-colored glass like perspective is normally you just remember and focus on the good things of your past. And I think that's something that's super cool, that it makes you even look back at negative memories with a positive outlook, because you appreciate that those negative memories made you into the person that you are. Okay, I can't change that, but I can like move on from it. You could try to erase them, but you couldn't change them.
I think it's kind of interesting, like when they're doing the procedure on him and Kirsten Dunst is going through the quotes. Blessed are the forgetful before they get the best even of their blunders, and then the eternal sunshine quote from Alexander Pope.
You mean Pope Alexander?
Yep.
Sorry.
No, Alexander Pope. I said it right. You had me second guess myself for a second. They're like saying like, oh, how lucky this guy is to forget stuff, but then in their own story, it just kind of comes back and bites them in the butt. Like forgetting that stuff, they just got hurt again.
Okay, that was one kind of gripe that I was like, with Kristen Dunst's character, I feel like it's kind of not her room to say that. It's kind of like when you see like an awkward situation or whatever, like in a relationship, you don't just walk up to a stranger, you'd be like, this is what's happening. All of those people consented to doing that, so I thought it was kind of like psycho of her to like send out all of the tapes to everyone just to like remind them of the horrible memories that they suppressed. I was like, just just because your memory was like important or whatever, and you don't. I'm like, I don't know if people want to be reminded about like horrible childhood memories that they tried to clear back, and you're like, oh, I'm gonna bring it back to you. Don't worry, I got your back. It's like
You'd hope it would come with a refund too. I mean, I don't know how expensive this procedure is, but I can't imagine it being cheap.
yeah. But hey, aren't you glad that you remember now?
Aren't you so happy? Yeah. Remember this? Oh.
What if some people had things wiped that were like traumatic and like scarred them and like they couldn't move on?
Yeah, like war. If you served in like the military, you saw like millions of people die.
Suffered PTSD, yeah.
And then she just sends it like, oh yeah, here's your thing. And he's like, has a seizure and dies.
Relive killing all those people.
Yeah, holy cow.
Sorry, I shouldn't laugh about that.
The side story of Kirsten Dunst and the doctor, their affair and like him convincing her to get the procedure. That's the same story from that poem that the Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind quote is from. It's like the guy and that girl, they have an affair and he convinces her to become a nun because he chooses his wife. In the movie, like he convinces her to get the procedure to forget it so like he could still be with his wife and like have everything how it was.
This is really unfair to her.
I think Charlie Kaufman really likes, either he likes Alexander Pope or he likes that, I think it's called Eloise de Abelard or something like that. I'm probably butchering the names. But like in Being John Malkovich, where he's doing the puppet show at the beginning of the movie. The puppet show that he's doing is the same thing that Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind quote is from.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
I haven't seen it, so I'll have to check out Being John Malkovich.
It's just as wild.
Because I remember the John Cusack one, and I was like, that's a different movie than inside of John Malkovich's head.
No, it's the same thing.
John Malkovich is everywhere. I actually thought they were two separate movies. It's like the time I found out Hannah Montana and
Miley Cyrus.
Same person. Oh, one's an alter ego, because I was like, I remember hearing or thinking like they had beef with each other. I'm like, oh yeah, Miley Cyrus is taking digs on Hannah Montana, and Hannah Montana's dissing Miley Cyrus back. I'm like, they're the same person. And I'm like, mind blown. It's like, what have I been doing with my life? It's weird. What? They're the same person?
Oh, I didn't know that.
From her TV show.
Miley Cyrus is the real person, but she plays her alter ego that's like a famous musician, pop star, is Hannah Montana, so she can have like a normal life outside of being famous, which I think she just puts on a wig, and I promise you, it's kind of like the Clark Kent Superman anomaly. It's like when you put on glasses, I'm sorry, I can still tell that you are Clark Kent, you're clearly Superman. Or, oh, I'm sorry, you dyed your hair, I can still tell it's you. Like, I don't even care what color.
Mystery Men?
Well, let me prove it to you. I just watched Kate Winslet, and she dyed her hair 3 times in this movie, and I can still tell who she was. Hannah Montana, you're full of crap. Got my beef out with Hannah Montana. I guess I'm actually still upset that it fooled me. And I'm like one of the suckers on the Disney Channel that believe this crap. I'm like, I thought they were the different people. Quotes.
My favorite one was constantly talking isn't necessarily communicating. I was like, oh, fuck. My man Jim Carrey needs to be a prophet, dude. I was like, that was some deep crap right there. She's like, I don't constantly talk. He's like, my point proven.
And David Cross is like, I'm making a birdhouse. David Cross is so funny. And then just like, Patrick, you stole a girl's panties? And then Elijah Wood's high-pitched laugh. Classy Elijah Wood. My only other quote was, just please be pretty, Dolly. You can't be ugly.
I love that quote.
The whole procedure is brain damage. Yeah, that's so great.
I know, when he's got that thing on his head and they're showing him memories, and then he's like, don't mess around with that. And then he's like, and everything starts to start glowing. I thought he was going to get like a tumor right there. Oh my gosh. Like, is this thing legal or whatever? He's like,
Do you think Mark Ruffalo was lying about, I think he was involved in the procedure.
I don't know. He sounded pretty convincing as he was explaining his side of it.
I feel like it's pretty hard to have your secretary like go under for a procedure and you not know about it. I don't know.
He's trying to hide the whole thing. Like, he's like ashamed of being caught in an affair. Like, pretty sure the doctor could hide it if he wanted to. He knew how to do the whole thing.
That is true.
He was the one that come and fixed the problem when Mark Ruffalo couldn't. It's crazy. Even if he like found out, doctor could still put Mark Ruffalo under, make him forget. But can you do it against their will? I don't know. It sounds like you
can't.
You could, I guess.
I think after he told his part of the story and he said like she looked happy, that's when I kind of thought like she didn't really want the procedure to forget that she liked him. It was more to forget that I think the doctor chose his wife over her. And that's what she wanted to forget.
He's like happy with the secret. Yeah, that was sad.
Wow. Yeah, this movie just shows you how ugly people can be, man. It's crazy. Are we going to recommend this film, Jordan?
oh, most definitely. I love this movie.
Cameron?
Yes.
Yes.
I would recommend it. Did I say it weird?
No, you said it just fine. I just said it's like, yep, just straight up yes. I've never heard. Usually when we recommend the movie, for some reason it always comes with a caveat. Well, if you're a murdering psychopath, like, yes, this movie's for you. But this one, it's
yeah,
like,
with nothing else to do.
yeah, if you like pain and suffering and you're in a relationship and you live in the real world, this movie's for you, you know?
Honestly, it's just a good film. It might be a little bit too real for some people, but it's just good.
Well put, Cameron. I would add that I definitely recommend this movie. I think it's a great film. You know, it has a lot to say, and if you're a very empathetic person, it can be really hard. You want to look away at times. It's a good, hard look in the mirror for some people. I'm perfect, so I don't deal with any of these crazy issues that Kate Winslet deals with.
Jeez, here we go.
Oh, you know what? They need to do films about narcissism and do the whole psychological thing. Aside from one that, like, kills everyone and is a psychopath. Maybe I have more in common with a psychopath than someone like Kate Winslet does.
Oh, I do recommend this movie to everybody. Like I said, our friends came over last night. They're like, what's that movie that Zach doesn't shut up about?
Yeah, you just keep pushing on your friends,
Oh,
you know?
definitely do.
Have you seen Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind? That is quite a title, by the way.
Have you seen Elijah Wood's greatest cameo of all time? That's not a cameo, it's just an entire film of awkwardness.
You know what's so funny, Cameron, that you mentioned that? Elijah Wood is the kind of actor where you're like, is he in just for this scene? Like, because when you first see him, you're like, maybe we won't see him again. And then you find out, like, no.
And then he's like, works at the place, and I was like, oh my gosh, no. How did he get hired?
What's your guys' favorite Elijah Wood movie?
Ooh, that's a good question.
I think mine might be I Don't Feel at Home in This
Home
World.
in this world anymore.
Greatest punch of all time, and him and the Ninja Stars.
Have you guys seen Everything is Illuminated?
No.
You guys need to watch that one. That movie's amazing.
Is that the one where he travels, right?
Yeah, he goes back to Ukraine to see like where his family came from because his grandparents just died, and so he's like looking for like his family history, and like it's slowly everything's coming out about what happened for his family to leave to come to America.
I do need to see that.
It's so good.
Lord of the Rings comes to mind.
Frodo's unbelievably good.
Ugh, I'm not a huge fan. I've never really liked those movies. Like they're good, I guess, but I like other stuff so much more.
I think Lord of the Rings are phenomenal movies, but is like Elijah Wood my favorite? And this one's, I actually like Sean Astin. I think Sam is the best.
Yeah, dude, Sam is the real one, yeah.
We're talking about Elijah Wood.
It's still, is it the movie that's the best, or is it Elijah Wood's performance?
Let's do his performance.
I don't feel at home in this world anymore.
Yeah, if it was just his performance, like he's definitely a more interesting character in that.
Yeah, he is the most interesting character in that. Good point.
He steals the show even though he's a supporting character, and that's always refreshing.
Overall movie, I'd say Everything is Illuminated, but just looking at Elijah Wood, then yeah, I agree with you.
I would say a second, just recently watched Come to Daddy, which is a great indie horror film.
His mustache.
I haven't heard of that.
He sells it.
Cooties. Yeah, he's really funny in that one too.
Cooties? I haven't seen it yet. I need to see it, but I'm sure we're missing a great movie out there, so if you think of one, write in and tell us which Elijah movies we missed.
I just saw Come to Daddy. I just look at the front picture, and it's just him with the most pedo stash I've ever seen in my entire life. I felt molested just looking
That's
at that
right.
photo, dude. What the fudge is that? Oh my gosh.
It has a great first and even second act, but I was a little disappointed by the third.
Cooties is the same type.
Why does he always have like the creepiest facial hair? He always has the worst facial hair. It just makes me so uncomfortable.
It's probably in his contract, just like Tom Hardy. He always has to be wearing a face mask, you know, like Bane and Mad Max. Elijah Wood's like, I just gotta have the creepiest facial hair you can give me.
Yeah, it's a
Long
requirement.
sideburns, please. Creepy pedo stash, yes, please.
He even had the creepy pedo stash in I Don't Feel at Home in This World Anymore.
And then the ridiculous mullet.
And the mullet.
Can't forget that hair, dude. He had like the braids. We are beginning our next segment. We are playing Build a Perfect Movie.
Elijah Wood edition.
Combine two movies to Rotten Tomatoes scores to try to equal 100. We're going to do anyone with the cast of Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, which this is a star-studded cast, by the way. Like, I mean, Kirsten Dunst, Mark Ruffalo, everyone.
Oh, I got mine. I already got my first one.
Yeah, I got mine.
Cameron, why don't you start us off?
Mr. Popper's Penguins. Yeah, baby, start to flow.
I'm gonna do Spider-Man 3.
Who?
Kirsten Dunst.
She's in that?
She's Mary Jane.
She's in that? What small role does she play?
I don't know why. I was thinking of the one with Jake Gyllenhaal. Dude, Mr. Popper's Penguins was trash. I think I went and saw that in theaters with mom and dad.
Dumb and Dumber.
Oh, boy.
You mean Dumb and Dumber 2?
What isn't it? Dumb and Dumber?
Well, there's 3.
There is, but it doesn't star Jim Carrey.
I watched the commercial to that, and that looked so horrible.
I thought they just made themselves look younger, and it looked weird, and that's why everyone hated it.
No, just new actors.
Oh, okay, do the sequel then.
Dumb and Dumber 2, spelled T-O.
Gosh, so bad.
All right, and I will do, what's the Jim Carrey Riddler one?
It's Batman Forever.
Does that one have Arnold Schwarzenegger as well?
Is Batman and Robin?
Oh. I've still never seen those. I need to watch those.
They're good. Good for what they are.
for them wearing the creepiest tights ever with bat nipples. Dude.
Jordan, you had Spider-Man 3. It scored 63%.
Oh, what? Oh, crap.
Oof, that's rough.
That's pretty high. I know, and everyone hates on that movie so much, it's actually got pretty good ratings.
Dang it.
Mr. Popper's Penguins. Cameron, you got 48%.
There's no way that's 48%. That is some bullcrap, dude.
Oh, you're toast, cheap.
Pretty high, yeah. I heard such terrible things about it, but it's like, critics are still willing
That
to...
should be like a 10%, bro. What the fudge?
That's what I thought, too. You're going to have to find a mediocre.
Zach, you did Dumb and Dumber 2. It was 30%.
How is that worse than... What the fudge?
I'll be honest, Dumb and Dumber 2 actually made me laugh. Obviously, it's nothing like the first one, but what comedy sequel is...
I've never seen it. Everyone just told me it wasn't worth it, and I never watched it.
It's not worth it.
I enjoyed it for a few good laughs. It's funny.
Is that the one with the diarrhea?
That's the first one. It does have a diarrhea scene where Jeff Daniels drinks all of that laxative. Jim Carrey sneaks to him. Dude, and that scene where he's riding on the moped. He's doing like the Wicked Witch of the West.
From Wizard of Oz, yeah.
That's me laughing. I cry every time I watch that. It's so funny. And then he's just like riding on his moped and he throws his head back. It's so great. I'm tearing up laughing just thinking about it. I did Batman Forever and it was 39%.
The Cable Guy.
Yeah, that one's probably like 60-something, so you're going to get pretty high.
Thanks for believing me, Jordan.
23 with Jim Carrey.
Yeah.
Oh, Jordan's playing it safe, baby.
I'm gonna do Come to Papa, Come to
Come to
Daddy,
Daddy.
whatever it's called. The number 23.
An 8 on effing Rotten Tomatoes, Jordan? Holy shit.
Spoiler alert.
Oh, fresh. I gotta beat Jordan. That's all that matters. Is there a second The Mask?
Yeah, but it doesn't have Jim Carrey.
Oh, dang it. It's gonna be kind of risky, but Ace Ventura, Pet Detective 2.
When Nature Calls.
There's no way it got over 50. If it gets over 50, I'm gonna cry.
Yeah, I think it did. You're screwed.
No way, cheap.
Yeah, at least 60. I'm sorry, cheap.
No, cheap.
Jordan, you did Spider-Man 3, 63%. The number 23, 8%. So you had a total of 6. What is that? That's like a terrible score. 71.
That's not bad. At least I didn't bust.
Cheap.
Cameron's going to bust.
I'm not gonna bust.
You could have bust.
Cameron,
Please.
Mr. Popper's Penguins, 48%. When Nature Calls, 31%.
What?
You scored a 79%. You beat Jordan.
I hope Zach wins. Screw you, Cameron.
I did Batman Forever, 39%. Come to Daddy, 86 freaking percent. God damn it. I went
Fudge.
over. I buzzed.
It was 80?
86%.
Oh, that's bold. That's
I'm
some
like, maybe I
cheese.
just didn't get the third act. Maybe I didn't watch the same movie that the critics did. Because again, I loved Come to Daddy first and second act, but the third act I didn't care for. And then apparently, just because I didn't understand the ending. Zach, you did Dumb and Dumber 2, 30%, and then you did Cable Guy, 54%. You got 84%. You win our
Oh,
game.
gosh dang it, Zach.
I'm okay with that.
I beat Jordan.
As long as Cameron doesn't win.
Jordan got the absolute last place. Although I busted, so I guess I lost.
Jordan got third.
Didn't even place a medal. At least you all are winners in my book. You all get a medal.
Yeah, Jordan got bronze.
I'm okay. I'll take that.
I'll take silver.
Second place, they always say, is the most depressed person, so.
Says the person that relates to the dude from this film. Cheap.
We're going to play our last game. It's just guess who am I thinking of?
Are you an actor?
Male, yeah.
So he's an actor. That's why I asked actor. Is he an actor and actress? Male.
Technically, this character is not an actor.
Are you animated?
No.
Is the actor that plays you over 50?
No.
Is the actor who plays you in the Marvel Universe?
No.
Okay, that's going to get rid of a lot of people.
I can't remember what he answered for my first question.
Oh my gosh. No, he's not animated, Chip. Stupid monkey.
Are you part of a franchise?
No.
Is the movie you're in a comedy?
No.
Is it a... No, he wouldn't do romance. Is it a horror?
No.
This is a romance.
Yes.
Oh, take that to Cameron.
Just goes to show you don't know much about me, Cameron.
Was this movie released in the last 10 years?
No.
Was it before 2000, though? I mean, after 2000.
No.
Is it Matthew McConaughey?
No.
Oh, shoot. Who's the guy that plays in A Knight's Tale?
Heath Ledger?
Are you Heath Ledger?
No.
Harrison Ford?
No.
Blade Runner?
No.
Ryan Gosling?
No. Is Ryan Gosling even in films before 2000?
Yeah, he's pretty young.
Oh, I don't know.
He's like 14, man. Every time I see him, he looks younger. Holy cow. He's got some face cream.
The magic serum he's drinking.
He's got
So maybe Ty calls Lars and the Real Girl a romance.
Is this person like the hero of the movie?
Yes, you could argue he's the hero.
Is it Keanu Reeves?
No.
I haven't the slightest clue, dude. I don't even know what to ask anymore. You can just get me.
We don't know romance movies from the 90s.
Yeah, you're talking to the wrong people about this, Ty. I'm lost.
Not Barbara Streisand.
It's a male.
It's a male.
I know. I was trying to think of the male's name. What that was in the movie with What's Up, Doc. I don't know. It's not romance, I guess.
Okay, so there is another element to the romance.
Is it Leonardo DiCaprio?
Yes.
Is it?
One second,
is it
Cameron,
the
you
dude
already
from
guessed. You
Titanic?
don't get to go again. Jordan, your turn.
Is it Titanic?
Leonardo DiCaprio's character in Titanic.
Thank you, Cameron, for giving it to me.
Didn't you have to guess the character? It's Jack. So then I win.
Yeah, suck it, Jordan.
Oh,
I
okay.
win both games.
Yeah, Zach wins. Suck it, cheap. I say the actor. Jordan says the movie. Way to set it up perfect for Zach, cheap.
Yeah.
Zach wins. You guys were a delight to watch you flounder. I don't know any romance. It's like, this is like the biggest.
I've actually never seen that movie.
Me either.
No way.
I watched the first 3 minutes of it and I'm like, this is boring. And
Just watch the last hour.
You gotta put in the last VHS tape. It's got the action.
all I know about that movie is there were room for both of them on the door, apparently. That's all I've heard.
Well, put it this way. They attempt it one time. And it's hopeless. Jim Carrey and Bruce Almighty, he has a great rant about this when he goes, here I'm standing at the Niagara Falls and I'm joined by the lady that threw the heart of the diamond over the railing of the boat. Did it feel bad when you sat safely on the big door and when Leonardo DiCaprio drowned or something like that? Oh my gosh. Anyway, I can't remember the quote. Movies that you've seen lately and movies that you are looking forward to seeing. Let's start with you, Cam.
I just recently watched Logan. I really enjoyed that. Solid 8 out of 10.
Oh, yes, Chubb. That one's amazing.
That was insane action. There was a prophecy made in, I believe, X-Men Origins.
Wolverine.
Yeah, the Wolverine, where he's in Japan, and I believe she's a mutant with the ability to prophesy future or whatever, and she prophesies that Wolverine's gonna die with his heart in his hand. And then later in the film, you see his actual physical heart in his hand. So you're like, oh, freak, he's going to die. He doesn't die. It's like, oh, maybe the witch lady was wrong. And then later in Logan, spoiler, he dies while holding his daughter's hand. And so his daughter is his heart.
Oh, but I'm so... Whoa. Oh.
Oh, snap.
And so I was like, oh, snap. So I really enjoyed that ending. I also watched Me Before You. It was actually a pretty well done film. I enjoyed it.
No, that is the most selfish man in a wheelchair I've ever seen in my entire life. Dude, you want to talk about a narcissistic paraplegic man? There's your narcissistic there person. I don't know. How do you feel about it, Cameron? Do you just let him kill himself? Yeah, just don't love me anymore. She was willing to be with...
I'm just saying, if you were suffering insane pain and waking up in the middle of the night, with pain, and then also having dreams of you being no longer paraplegic, I think that'd be kind of living...
Here's my argument against it, though. She never met him when he wasn't paralyzed. See, it would be different if I was normal, or that sounds bad. If I was unparalyzed as I am now, and then I got paralyzed with someone, I'd be like, okay, now you can leave me. And she meets him after he's paralyzed and falls in love with this paralyzed guy, and he's like, I'm just gonna kill myself, and she doesn't want it. And then he's like, ugh. You ever heard of morphine? Man, we live in a time where we got all this medication. You can take good care of yourself. You can pay people to scoop food in your mouth. I'm just saying. I just think I'm just bitter about it.
I was more frustrated with her. She barely even knows him. She's like, I want you to do all your suffering because I make you happy. I complete you. It's like, he needs to settle down. He's suffering and been suffering for a while, so chill.
Maybe I fell for her. Maybe he's right and she's wrong. I just fell for her narrative, thinking she knows best for him, right? Talk about all these romantic movies that make me so mad.
Maybe you are a serial killer, Ty. No sympathy for people. I get it.
Yeah, what the fudge?
No sympathy. I didn't want him to kill himself, though. How am I
Okay,
not
I'm going to need you to
sympathetic?
chill. Let me finish.
We're never going to get through Cameron's list because I have a problem with every single movie he's
I also
watched.
started watching Brooklyn Nine-Nine. It's hilarious. I think it's written by Sam Raimi. I think he's the writer for it.
I doubt it.
But there's another writer. It's the same writer that did Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
The Lord?
At least for a couple episodes, maybe.
Andy Samberg, I think. I know he writes some of them.
He's so funny. But
That's right up there with Parks and Rec and The Office.
then I'm also starting to watch Community as well, which I'm really enjoying as well.
Yeah.
Both really good.
Have you watched the episode with Jack Black yet, Cameron?
Yeah, he does the high kick or whatever, and then he goes and joins the cool kids club. I was like, the fuck?
It's a great, a meta use of a new famous actor that comes in to try to inject your show, and they literally only use it for one episode, and you're like, I wonder what it would have been like if they had kept him on.
Is that why they had him come on? Was to inject enthusiasm into the show or for the show? Or
Well, that's just my point. Dan Harmon, I think he loves to make tropes out of show. You look at Rick and Morty now. It's probably the most sought after TV show of all time, right? I mean, it's crazy. You have a fan base that's more rabid than anything. And Always Sunny in Philadelphia, Philadelphia does it too, where they bring Mindy Kaling in season like 10, and they have her as like a different character, but she's like trying to bring a different image to the show.
After
Dennis leaves.
Yeah.
They kind of did the same thing in Community, where it's like you introduce a new character who's famous from a different show, but they carry all this baggage with them, right? You can't see him as anyone else but Jack Black. And Always Sunny kind of had that with Danny DeVito, but Danny DeVito just eventually owns that role because the show's been going for so long. But yeah, I remember when he first came on board, you're like, oh, Danny DeVito did stand out, because you're like, I'm thinking of like all of Danny DeVito's past performances, but eventually you get lost because Frank is now, to me, just as iconic as any of Danny DeVito's previous performances.
When I first started watching that show, like I knew Danny DeVito and I knew he was famous, but I didn't like really know anything else he was in other than like Matilda.
Right.
We're moving to Guam.
Yeah.
What?
That's like the best quote from Matilda. And much too good for children.
Or I'm smart, you're dumb. I'm big, you're little. I'm right, you're wrong. And it's so great to hear Danny DeVito said, I'm big. For some reason, he is like a 3-foot tall troll. I love him to death.
Troll.
No shots fired.
Yeah, I've just watched so much It's Always Sunny that Frank is Danny DeVito now. Like, that's just who he is, and he's pretending if he's not being Frank.
Frank, when he first comes onto the show, they don't know, but they needed a movie star, right? He has become such a key, like the one that provides the funding for all their shenanigans.
That's kind of literally what he does. They bring him on there so the show keeps getting funding, and he's actually funding them in the show as well.
The show is so meta. I always feel so crummy after I watch it. It's
So
good.
horrible, those people.
The most egoistical men. Hey, we asked if there was a narcissistic. It is Sunny in Philadelphia, and I love that show.
Dude, Dennis is freaking the best.
You could argue Charlie's not, but he does stalker girls.
They're all horrible human beings.
What I've been watching is also what I'm looking forward to. I'm just going to keep watching Community and Brooklyn Nine-Nine, binge some of
I
that.
think the last movie I watched was, other than Eternal Sunshine, was Donnie Darko.
Oh, fudge.
So that was so good.
So good. Oh, I'm young.
When I was done, I was like looking it up on IMDb and saw there was a sequel. And I texted Jordan. He's like, I'm like, is this any good? He's like, no, this is garbage. I was kind of sad. I wanted more.
Oh my gosh, yeah, that film is insane.
That is a movie that leaves you wanting more.
Not wanting more like that it wasn't good, wanting more like it was so good you want more of it.
Oh, absolutely.
You could read that. I wanted more. That's like a conundrum, isn't it?
Craving more.
It's insatiable.
The last few months, we went on like kind of a Korean movie kick after Parasite came out. So we watched Parasite, Host, I Saw the Devil, Train to Busan, Old Boy. Like those were all really good. I never know Korea had so many like good movies until Parasite. I'm like, holy cow. How have I made it this long without knowing this?
Dude, they've just been secretly making these great films. Yeah, man.
No, I was just going to mention, too, that you binge watched like 5 of the longest TV shows I've ever seen.
Oh, yeah. Quarantine's been good. When I watched it, How I Met Your Mother, I used to watch it every year. I think they took it off of Netflix, and then Jordan owns it, so I watched it all over again.
That's a show that spans like 9 seasons, is it?
Yeah.
I had a roommate that watched it in 3 weeks.
Holy mother of mercy.
I don't even know how that's possible.
That beat me.
My roommate is not well. Don't. It's not a competition.
My roommate is not well.
Yeah, this is not like a brag. And I didn't see him for 3 weeks, and then after I'm like, oh, how was that? How are you liking that show? He's like, well, I finished it. And I'm like,
He liked it quite a bit.
I'm still working on that same homework assignment. Like, it's unreal.
But yeah, right now I'm watching Futurama.
How does that fare with like Simpsons, Family Guy, like all the other comedy sketch shows?
I like it more than Family Guy. Like Family Guy, I think kind of is like up and down, right? And Futurama's more consistent. I never got into The Simpsons. I don't know, it's just super clever, like really kind of nerdy jokes, kind of like Rick and Morty. If you know like physics, science kind of stuff, you get kind of the second layer of it. There's enough in Futurama, like I think it pleases everyone. Like everyone can find something funny in
Yeah,
it.
it's like Star Trek meets The Simpsons. I like it a lot. It's fun.
The only episode I ever saw on TV was that one-eyed girl is going up a ladder, and she's going up underneath the star captain, and he's climbing this ladder, and she has to look right up under his miniskirt, and she like, ugh. That's the only thing I've ever seen from it. But that made me laugh really, really hard, because it's just like making fun of those like ridiculous space uniforms that they wear, and you see that a lot in like the sci-fi Star Trek things, like these ridiculous outfits. They're just so impractical. I'll have to give that one a try.
Yeah, one of the running jokes, like Leela, the Cyclops, and like all the other Cyclops, they always brag about their like visual prowess, because they're like sensitive about their eye, but like they have no depth perception. Whenever they're like gauging how far away something is, they like totally miss.
Yeah, it's like, how long do we have till the missile lands? He's like, I think we got some time. Kaboom!
So it's like, how far away is it? Like, oh, about 1 trillion miles, and then it lands behind you. I don't even know what's coming out. Corona kind of pushed everything back. I heard Train to Busan's getting a sequel.
Oh, yes.
That'll be good. Mm-hmm. I heard AP Bio's getting a 3rd season.
Hallelujah.
There's another season of It's Always Sunny coming out.
Oh my gosh, how many seasons are there?
Know more about TV shows than anything right now.
They can never stop. That's the thing I'm so scared, like all good things that comes to an end. That show's just gotten funnier and funnier. The latest season with them at the zoo asserting their dominance like animals, that had me laughing so hard I cried.
The meerkats.
Yeah. When Dennis is like making Mac look away and then he like they pee on each other. Oh my gosh, dude, I died.
The text messages.
Text messages was the best, where Mac's like sending really long ones, because I do that all the time, and then you guys just respond with like a 1-word thing, and I'm like, oh, okay, all right. Or no response. And then I love too, like, group text, and then you make side
chats,
texts.
Yeah.
Mac finds his pride where he's like trying to come out to his dad. Like he does like that big choreographed dance in the rain with that girl.
Oh my gosh, I got like emotional. That was weird. That was crazy.
Yeah, I'm like, I did not expect that in that show. I'm like, whole 180 from what they usually do. Yeah.
I actually was scared, and I think a lot of people were too. They were like, does this mean like they're signifying like a close? Because this is the first time they've done something you could argue that wasn't only meta. And I think it still ended up being meta, but it's every one of their finales had always ended with just everyone reverting back to the same thing. But this is actually like the first time you've seen character growth. And after 13 seasons, you haven't seen a single person make an inch, but only divert like into more unhealthy traits. Like you have Dennis, who's literally divulged into like a raving lunatic psychomaniac. Because before it was always like very creepy things.
Because the implications.
Only once in a while he would say things that were really disturbing. I have tools. I bind people. He's got like duct tape.
Did you watch the episode, Cameron, when they buy the boat and he keeps saying the implications? He's like, because of the implications. And he's like, why do you keep saying it like that? It's kind of creeping me out.
No, I haven't seen that one.
He's like talking about bringing a girl out on a boat, and he's like, she has to sleep with me because of the implications. Like if we're out in the middle of the ocean, she has nowhere to go, so she has to. And he's like, and Mac's like, I really don't feel comfortable when you say the word implications. It's so cute.
Doesn't Mac like keep clarifying like what the implications are? And he's like, Dennis like, well, you don't say it out loud. It's just creepy.
No, but if she says no, the answer's no, right? But she's not going to say no because of the implications. And he goes, but no means no. Absolutely. Yeah. And he goes, see, you keep using that word implication.
Either Dennis or Jake Gyllenhaal are my favorite sociopaths.
Oh my gosh, Jake is so scary.
Like, was it Nightcrawler and then Donnie Darko? I don't know how he does it so well, but he does.
That look in the mirror in Nightcrawler, holy fudge, dude. If he looked at me that way.
Cameron, I seek that out, dude. I freaking, like, I'll be watching YouTube and I'll just be like, Jake Gyllenhaal, Nightcrawler, mirror scene. It's like the craziest 30 seconds of any film.
And the way that he interacts with like his Indian guy. Oh my gosh.
I've tried to make like a psychopath face in the mirror. I'm like, can I do that? And I don't think I can. I'm like, there must be movie magic here or something. I don't know.
To his credit, he is like one of the handsomest guys in Hollywood, and he still managed to pull that off. Holy cow.
I was going to say, though, I have done that at night and like looked at the mirror and like tried to scare myself, and it's happened. I've scared myself quite a few times.
You'll have to coach me, Jordan. You can be my acting coach.
Jordan, you're pretty scary, so
It's
you
true.
know, that's easy for you. Jake Gyllenhaal is handsome and beautiful, man. How does a guy like that pull it off?
I'll tell you how he pulled it off. He literally put himself on an opposite sleep schedule. Like that guy, he is an improv. Wait, what's the word when you lose yourself in your role?
Method acting.
He is a method actor.
Like Jared Leto?
So is Jared Leto. Yes,
I love Jared.
The most psycho human being that has ever existed.
Sending rats and condoms to people.
A pig head.
That is acting.
Was that for like Joker or something?
Yeah.
The fact that he showed up today on set knowing that he had mailed a dead rat to his auntie, man. You know that he is ready to play the Joker. You asked him in interviews, what was it like playing the Joker? What was it like seeing the movie? I don't watch any of my own films.
Oh, brother.
Jog on.
Have you guys seen Mr. Nobody?
I don't think they've seen Mr. Nobody, Zach.
If you liked Eternal Sunshine, you'll probably like this one. It's kind of like just another one that makes you kind of think. Like Eternal Sunshine is like forgetting things or erasing memories and like making you who you are. And Mr. Nobody is like if you knew what would happen if you made a choice, like would you pick the best choice or would you not be able to choose because you know what's going to happen?
It's fun to talk about.
It kind of sounds like Total Recall or what's the one with Tom Cruise where he gets his eyeballs taken out?
Minority Report.
That is one of 2 movies that legitimately freaked me out. Like, I was having nightmares.
Yeah, that girl in the water.
Yeah.
She's terrifying.
Bald and, I don't know, just screaming at random times. And just...
I like how the only characteristic was bald. He's like thinking, he looks at cancer patients every day.
Zach's biggest fear, he wakes up one morning, his wife's bald. He's like, no!
Well, even if she's bald, if she's, I don't know, that girl's just so pale and,
Yeah, no, it's her eyes, too. It's just like, got those freaky big eyes.
so creepy, yeah.
His eyes bugging out of her head.
Yeah, that movie scared me, and then Darker Skies scared me.
How about that scream she does?
Yelling at him to run.
Yeah, she's like, rah! How about when Tom Cruise stabs his face and he turns into like his face melts literally on screen right before your eyes. He's like, disfigures his face so he can sneak into the, woo, that's scary stuff, man.
Yeah, I've told people that movie scares me, and people just look at me weird. They're like, that's not even a scary movie. That's like an action movie. I'm like, no, you don't understand.
It's disturbing.
Have you seen it? Yeah.
How about eating a moldy sandwich with curdled milk? That is horror enough for me, dude.
Oh, stop, I'm gonna be sick.
I saw Win a Date with Tad Hamilton this week, and holy cow, it was really funny. It's kind of a dumb movie on rewatch, but it's like a guilty pleasure. It's so hilarious. Topher Grace, is that his name? No, plays Eddie Brock in Spider-Man.
From that 70s show?
It's great hearing him saying, guard your cardinal treasure. A movie that's on my radar is The Old Guard, starring Charlize Theron. I want to see that movie. Thank you, everybody.
Oh, I didn't say what I watched, but okay.
That's all the time we have, sorry. I'm making a birdhouse.
Really quick, I watched Donnie Darko with Zach, which is amazing. That's an unbelievably good film.
If you want your mind exploded.
And then I also saw The Dictator. My favorite part was when Charles Chaplin, well, there's a lot of parts that made me laugh really hard, but one of them, he's Hitler, or what do they call him? Hinkler. Everybody keeps coming to him with different ideas on, like, he's paid all these scientists, because Hitler apparently tried to create all these crazy things and stuff, and he hired, like, the greatest scientists and gave him all this funding.
Cloning and yeah.
One of them shows up and he's like, I created a bulletproof vest. And he's like, shoot me. And then he shoots him and he dies. And he's like, far from bulletproof. That's really good.
I watched that movie. I think the only time I laughed was the scene where he's doing the race. The gun they used to fire off the race. He grabs out his own gun and starts shooting everyone that's in front of him. So he can be first place. I don't know why I thought that was so funny.
You're thinking of Sacha Baron Cohen in The Dictator.
Isn't that what you're talking about, The Dictator?
Oh, shoot. No, I'm talking about The Great Dictator. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was thinking of that one.
Oh, with Charlie Chaplin. Oh, man. That definitely changes the conversation.
Yeah, very different movies.
I'm like, I don't remember this in there at all. Yeah.
You mentioned Hitler.
Would you say Hinkler? I just kept thinking of Rick and Morty, like Linkler.
Aberdolf Linkler, yeah.
Yeah, when you said Elon Musk earlier, I was thinking of Elon Tusk from that episode of Rick and Morty.
Dude, that reminded me, Jordan, when you were saying that, I showed Grant some scenes from Borat, the feminist scene, and then also the Jew scene. Oh, if they've shapeshifted, give them money. Give them more.
All your money.
Oh, because women have smaller brain. Yes, scientists figured this out. She's like, you're wrong, wrong. He's like, oh, calm down, pussycat.
How about when he's driving with the test driving instructor and he's just like, no, we follow her home and make this next step. No, because in this country, a woman can choose whom she has sex with. And he goes, what? You joke? That's so funny. Yeah, it's a great thing. And he goes, that's not so good for me. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning into Future Hidden Movie Gems podcast. Write us an email at futuromovies@gmail.com. And thanks for tuning in this week. Leave us a review, 5-star review only, unless you feel so compelled, to be honest. Just know we're going to skew the data. We're going to shadow ban you and we'll follow you for the rest of your life if you try to leave us a bad review. Dark forces will be against you and you'll never see a good movie again. And if you do, you won't be able to interpret it properly or remember it or erase your memory just like this. We have the technology from Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
That got dark.
Next week, we are reviewing Swiss Army Man.
Heck yeah,
A
baby.
film by Daniels. I am so excited for this. Yes, starring Daniel Radcliffe and Paul Dano. We're gonna get into that next week. Phenomenal film. I used it once. I went this whole podcast without saying phenomenal. Oh, I said it right at the end. If there was a drinking game, drink every time Ty says phenomenal. There's 3 times on this podcast. You guys, stay safe. We're signing off. Peace.
Peace.
Bye.